Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the fourth and final day of Innovations for the New Normal, a 4-day virtual innovation conference that has highlighted the University of Hawaii's efforts in the areas of resilient food systems, healthcare, and digital infrastructure, vital areas for the state in its recovery and economic diversification efforts from the current COVID-19 pandemic. This important and timely conference is sponsored by the UH Office of the Vice President for Research and Innovation. I'm Mark Arakaki from the UH Office of Communications, and I will be your conference MC. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to be a part of this important conference to help move Hawaii's innovation economy forward. Today's focus will be on the next steps to recovery. Our keynote speaker for today is the exciting Guy Kawasaki, Chief Evangelist of Canva and creator of the Remarkable People podcast. Guy was born in Honolulu and lived in Kalihi Valley. He attended Iolani School and went on to Stanford, where he earned a degree in psychology. After earning his MBA at UCLA, Guy was hired at Apple, where he evangelized the Macintosh to developers and later became an Apple Fellow. He is now a noted entrepreneur, writer, speaker, and consultant, as well as a brand ambassador for Mercedes-Benz. Good morning, Guy Kawasaki.
Good morning. That was such a smooth introduction of me. My goodness. As you heard, I was born and raised in Kalihi Valley, and now I'm in a closet in Santa Cruz, California. So I think that's progress. Um, and I went to Iolani, which I tell people is the school that Barack Obama could not get into. And yet my roots are truly in Hawaii, and I happen to love surfing. So any excuse I can have to go to Hawaii, I'm there. Now, believe it or not, I have 15 minutes to give a keynote speech, which is about 30 minutes shorter than I'm used to. So I'm just going to have to rip through this, okay? Breaking one of my rules about slowing down the pace of your talk. I'm going to have to speed it up today. So my talk is the top 10 tips about how to be a great inventor, innovator, revolutionary, all that good stuff. It's stuff that I learned at Apple. I have also started several software companies. I have invested in many software companies. I advised many software companies. And now I'm chief evangelist of Canva, which is an online graphic design service out of Sydney, Australia, which we make about 7 million graphics a day. And we have about 36 million monthly active users. So uh, I've been in tech and innovation a long time. So this is what I've learned through my career. So step number one in this pandemic, the most important question you can ask is, therefore what? And by this, I mean, you take your knowledge of your industry, your market, your vision, your outlook on life, your perspective, the data that you've gathered, and you make a calculation like knowing what I know, thinking what I'm thinking, therefore, what product, what service should I create? If you're in the middle of a pandemic, you say, well, ah, based on all the schools being closed, therefore what? Online education, uh, social media interaction. How about trackers? It's these kinds of things. And I'll give you an example prior to the pandemic. 10 or 15 years ago, if you saw a Motorola cell phone, which was a brick back then, and you said to yourself, someday this phone is going to be small, it's going to be cheap, it's going to have a camera in it, and people will have phones that they carry with them. So phones will be tied to people as opposed to places. And they'll be on this data network. So people could take pictures and share them. Therefore, what? And you might have come to the conclusion to start Instagram. So the first question to ask is, therefore, what? The second thing is a matter of perspective, where I suggest you figure out that you have got to get to the next curve, that great invention, great innovation, revolutionary change, and in the word of Steve Jobs, denting the universe usually happens on the next curve, not the curve you're currently on. Back in the 80s, if you had asked an Apple customer, what would you like from Apple? They would have said better, faster, cheaper, Apple II. They would not have told you a Macintosh because they were completely unaware of a graphical user interface. So they could not describe something they had never seen. They could only describe what they had seen before, which is an Apple II, better, faster, cheaper Apple II. So, I like to use an ice examples. There used to be an ice harvesting industry. 30 years later, there was an ice factory industry, much better than harvesting ice because you could have a factory anywhere. 30 years after that, there was now the refrigerator curve, much better than ice factory, because now everybody could have their personal ice factory. So you go from ice 1 to ice 2 to ice 3. The point is to get to the next curve. The third point is to remember your raison d'etre, or your reason for existence. Why does your company exist? Your company exists to create customers, not to create business plans, not to raise money. And you also have to remember that the reason you exist usually stays consistent. How you serve that need changes. And I'll give you a negative example. So in 1975, an engineer at Kodak invented digital cameras. So wrap your mind around that. Kodak invented digital photography, 1975. Now, can you imagine that engineer going to his boss saying, I have figured out a way that nobody has to buy film anymore. Isn't that great? And what would you do if you were Kodak? You'd shut him down, because Kodak was defining itself as being in the chemicals business. We put chemicals on paper, chemicals on film, we expose that to light, and that's the business they're in. But you know what? They should have remembered that they're not in the chemicals business. They are in the preservation of memories business. And whether you preserve memories with chemicals on film, chemicals on paper, or digital sensors, it's the same business. Remember the reason why you exist. Number 4, there's a great song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. But innovators, inventors, revolutionaries, they don't worry, be crappy. That is, you take this curve jump and you ship it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Honestly, when you look back on version 1 of your revolutionary product, you should cringe a little bit. You should say, oh my God, what were we thinking? What was I thinking when we shipped a Macintosh 128K, 128K of RAM, 400K floppy drive, no software thanks to my efforts? What were we thinking? But at some level, you cannot worry that you are shipping something that's imperfect. You have to get to the next curve. Now, I want to emphasize, if you're in biotech, forget this recommendation, okay? Yeah, you cannot, don't worry, be crappy. You have to worry and be good. Number 5, do not be afraid of polarizing people. Great products, great services, great inventions, great innovation polarizes people. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. People love or hate Macintosh, love or hate iOS, love or hate Android, love or hate social media. It's okay if some people hate what you do. The worst case is that you're not on the radar and nobody cares. Number six is don't be afraid of changing your mind. Some people think that changing your mind is a sign of stupidity and weakness. I disagree. It is a sign of strength, and it is a sign of intellectual ability. You know, Apple shipped the iPhone as a closed system. You could not write apps. A year later, they completely reversed that. They made the iPhone an open system. Without doing that, there would be no iPhone apps. Without iPhone apps, there would be no iPhone. So don't be afraid of changing your mind. Number seven. Number seven is, I call churn, baby churn, which is to realize that innovation and revolutionary change is a process. It is not an event. Macintosh was shipped on January 24th, 1984. You know, some people think, well, that's when the revolution occurred. That's when the revolution started. It took 30 years to get to where we are today. Churn, baby, churn. 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 2.0. Takes a long time. Number 8, stolen from Chairman Mao. Let 100 flowers blossom. And by this, I mean, you take your best shot at designing this product, designing this service, figuring out who's your intended audience and how they will use it. And you ship. And oh my God, you may notice something very interesting, which is people you never intended as your customer use your product or service in an unintended way. And lots of companies freak out. Holy cow. People are buying our products in large quantities. We never anticipated they would buy it. We never anticipated they would use it. Let me give you a piece of advice. When that happens, take the money. Always take the money. Let 100 flowers blossom. Macintosh was supposed to be a spreadsheet, database, and word processing machine. Guess what? It was a desktop publishing machine. We declared victory. You want to use it for desktop publishing? Hallelujah. That's what we created Macintosh for. Don't be proud. Let 100 flowers blossom and take the money. Number nine. Number nine is to get high and to the right. And I am not advocating the use of drugs nor becoming a political conservative. I am saying to create a little 2x2 matrix. When you're vertically high, it means that you are very different. When you're to the right, it means that you're valuable. All right. So value and, excuse me, differentiation and value. So you want to be in that corner, the upper right hand corner, where you are valuable and differentiated, that nobody can do what you do. If you are valuable but not differentiated, you always have to compete on price. If you are differentiated but not valuable, you are just plain stupid. If you're not differentiated and not valuable, you are a total loser. The corner you want to be in is where you are valuable and differentiated. When the iPod first came out, it was high and to the right. It was the only way that you had a little gizmo that had a user interface that a mere mortal could operate. You could get a wide selection of music. It was easy to install that music. It was legal to install that music, and it was inexpensive, 99 cents per song. iPod was unique and valuable. That applies to every service, every product, every person. If you are a unique and valuable employee, you will always be valuable to your company. I would even apply it to life. That is, if you are a high and to the right, unique and valuable spouse or significant other, you will never have to worry about your relationships. Get high and to the right. Number 10. Number 10 is to learn to ignore naysayers. As you go along in life, you are going to encounter people who tell you it can't be done, it shouldn't be done, it isn't necessary. There are two kinds of naysayers. I like to call them bozos. There are two kinds of bozos. One bozo, slovenly, disgusting, pocket protector, body odor, you know, Japanese watch, although I use a Seiko, Japanese watch, rusty car, just a loser. That's not the dangerous bozo. Because you look at that person and you say, this person is a loser. So only losers listen to losers. I'm assuming that you're not a loser. So I'm not worried about that bozo. The dangerous bozo is the winner bozo. This person is famous, rich, powerful, and you are tempted to take those qualities and extrapolate to mean that this person is smart. That is a dangerous assumption because lots of people who are rich and famous and powerful are simply lucky, not smart. And so I am worried about that case. So some classic examples. IBM's chairman predicted a world market for 5 computers. I have 5 Macintoshes in my house. That's the total market he anticipated. The founder of DEC said that there's no reason why anyone would want a personal computer in their home. We all have personal computers in our home today. Now, that's a very interesting case because he was so successful on the mini computer curve, he could not embrace the personal computer curve. Think if you had the most successful ice factory, would you embrace refrigerators? If you were selling millions and millions of dollars worth of film, would you embrace digital photography? So if you ask Kodak, what do you think of digital photography? Even though they invented it, they would have said, can't be done, shouldn't be done. People want film. If you were to ask an ice factory, what do you think of refrigerators? They would say, why would anybody want a refrigerator? They can just use their telegraph, send us a telegram, and we'll have people come on in trucks and sleighs delivering blocks of ice that we froze in the factory. You have to learn to ignore naysayers. Now, I wish I could tell you that whenever someone says you won't succeed, it means you will succeed. That's not true. But if you listen to people and never try, you will never know. So to summarize my top 10, okay? So ask therefore what? Get to the next curve. Remember why you exist. Don't worry, be crappy. Don't worry about polarizing people. Don't be afraid of changing your mind. Churn, baby, churn. Get your revolution from version 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Number 8, let 100 flowers blossom. Number 9, upper right-hand corner, unique and valuable. And number 10, ignore naysayers. And that in 15 minutes is as much knowledge as I can communicate about how to be a great inventor, how to change the world, how to dent the universe, and how to truly, truly not only survive, but thrive through this pandemic. Thank you very much.